if we jump to an industry which I'm sure you know well, and that is the fashion industry. We touched on how luxury fashion is being big time impacted by the coronavirus. But something I've spoken to fashion companies and the fashion industry about as well, and this is a two-part question, and to dive into it, one thing that they're talking about the most is sustainable fashion, right? That kind of reminds me when oil companies want to be more sustainable by drilling oil. How much do you think these industries really know, or the perceptions that they put forward as trying to be sustainable and having a more global outlook? Are they doing a good job, or is it just talk, in your opinion?
Right, you're really putting me on the spot now.
Because we see so many things of sustainable fashion, this, sustainable fashion, that, having a global outlook.
Well, again, it's another green tick, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is a certain amount of greenwash
Isn't
going
their
on there.
industry based on the fundamental business principles that they've employed until now? Won't really change, because that's going to see a big impact on their balance sheets. They're going to see a big impact on their profits. So why would they want to change as opposed to just?
Well, I think it's not a question of wanting to change; it's a question of having to change. Because yes, the world is becoming more aware that we have a limited amount of resources, and we have to look to how we are producing any goods that we use and how we use the resources that the planet has given us. And I totally understand that. So industry is going to have to look at ways of saving resources, saving energy, and what we use and how we produce it. So I don't think it's a question of them wanting to. I think it's a question that they're going to have to face
because
it.
the consumer base wants it to happen more than anything.
No, yes, exactly. The consumer base, as we've seen, is more aware. And I think we have to caveat that slightly, because as I've said, when we go down to, yes, we can see it on the internet, and you see a lot of Twitter all about sustainable fashion. We've seen the BAFTAs, or wear a dress that you've worn before, or whatever. Well, that's on a very different plane to the person who's got 5 children and needs to buy them something to wear to school. So people criticise, Tesco or whatever supermarket chain you wish to talk about, for having £2 T-shirts. But for some people, those are a lifesaver, because you've got 5 children, you need to get them to school, you need to have something for them to wear. So we have to also caveat that with again looking at how it's impacting on the poorest in our community. And I definitely think that yes, industry will have to change, and we will also have to change our own perceptions of how we keep things, how we mend things. And how we recycle. Definitely, that's going to change. And we're seeing it happening. But at the same time, I think we have to be very careful about impacting on the poorest in our community, because we simply don't have the margin at the moment for allowing them time to adapt, because if we don't allow that time for adapting to a new way of life, we're simply going to see them turning against us, and we're going to see social unrest, which is something we really need to avoid. So I think in terms of sustainability, yes, there is a certain amount of greenwash, yes, but I think medium to long term, yes, we are going to see a definite shift in production and how we produce goods.
Does that mean James Bond needs to now recycle his tuxedos?
Yeah, it'd be a bit difficult with the way he uses up his clothes, isn't it? I mean, I remember some of the films I've seen, he practically shreds his suits, doesn't it? But
and the next scene is in a perfect crisp suit. Where did he get it from? No one asks these questions.
Well, actually, what you don't realise is that Moneypenny is behind the corner sewing it up now, to be sustainable. So we're going to have a sustainable dinner jacket for Bond, are we? Well, exactly. But what I'm saying is, we're actually going to reintroduce, because sustainability in fashion actually is something that was present. If we look back in the past,
that's right,
we were far more sustainable than we are now.
Yeah, you're right,
and we really sort of coming in the 70s, 80s, we saw much more of a move towards a throwaway society. So I think it's more a question of adapting. And I think technology is going to help us with that as well. But on the other hand, people say, the new generation are very keen on sustainability and so forth. Yes, but they all want the new iPhone, don't they? You've seen them queuing
Double
for
thing, isn't it, right?
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Sustainable, and they buy the newest thing.
Exactly. So we have to caveat exactly how sustainable are we. I won't even show you my own mobile phones because again, or indeed my laptop. because I tend to be somebody who is very much a sustainable person because I don't like the latest trend. I will buy something if it works and I can prove that and it has a good
functional fashion, right?
Function rather than fashion, exactly. But we're seeing certainly a sort of a juxtaposition there, really a clash, because although we're talking about sustainability, we're still seeing very much a throwaway society still very much present. Will it change? I think technology will help us change. I think we are going to see not so much of as a moving back to keeping, say, the same phone for 20 years. Let's take the whole iPhone. But what I think you'll see is that the new iPhones or the new any phone or whatever new technology comes out will in itself be more sustainable in the way it's produced. It'll be recyclable. It will be made of recyclable material. Yes, I think we're moving in that direction. I think that's where we're moving. In the same way that we're seeing with recyclable clothing. So even moving to production of using recycled wool in our fabrics. These are the changes that we're going to see, and technology will allow us to do it, and will also bring the price point down because that's very important as well. Because as you are moving to this sustainable society, we have to make sure that the price point is sustainable.
That's key, isn't it? Yeah.
Because that's the point. It's very much, it's okay for, let's just say any designer, like a Stella McCartney trouser suit, for example. Oh, it's made of sustainable fabric and whatever that means. Well, that's great, but the price tag is rather out of the reach of most of your average working person. So we need to get it down, and I think that's where technology, and that is where the actual opportunities are to bring the whole argument of sustainability down to the common denominator, down to the person working on your minimum wage. That person, if you're going to get them on board, they need to be able to afford it.
I think you're more optimistic than I am about these things.
Well, I'm looking more long term, you see, and I see projects coming in all the time. I'm often, I see the latest tech coming in front of me. And of course, I'm sometimes I get really rather tired of seeing, the one opportunity after another. And tech is almost, it's coming to the point where as soon as you've seen one idea, it's replaced by the very next day. So it's almost as though we're speeding up too quickly now. But certainly, I think that's where the future lies. Definitely, that is where the opportunities will be.
Yeah.